but surprisingly, most of the queries were in relation to hair loss, telogen effluvium, frontal fibrosing alopecia, and male baldness. Now, I had seen a lot of my own clients, my own eyebrow clients, coming to me in the last 2 years who were frontline workers around the time of COVID, who got COVID before there was a vaccine. And they lost a lot of their hair. Now, what happens when you have an illness or stressor is that the blood, our bodies are very clever, but the blood supply goes to the most important organs, brain, liver, heart, lungs, and it doesn't deem our hair, nails or teeth as being critical organs. So therefore the blood supply is reduced from there. And we had seen a lot of telogen effluvium where people had lost a lot of their hair and it just didn't return. Or if it did return, it was thinner and it was certainly more patchy, or you felt that people could see into your scalp more, or you were starting to recede from probably your widow's peak and up over the ears. That's what we had seen. Now, obviously, we associate a lot of baldness or premature baldness with men. A lot of men go and have transplants. Some of them go as far as Turkey to have their transplant. And it is a great, PRP of the scalp is a great place to support the new growing hairs because of the growth factors that are, sorry, I got cut out there, because of the growth factors that are in the platelet-rich plasma. So one of the most common questions was from men as to how soon will they see results. And the normal ballpark would be that you need to have a minimum, an absolute minimum of 3 treatments, 4 weeks apart, and that if the follicle is lagging or is not dead, that you will start to see new baby hairs usually at about 16 weeks. If your hair loss has been very sudden, it's recommended that you come every month for up as far as 6 months, and then once every 6 months then after that. But you're assessed after 3 sessions. So how soon will you see the hairs? Usually 16 weeks is when you see the tiny baby hairs coming. God, look at the gorgeous sunshine. Okay, so I'm back. Another question was from a man thinking of having a transplant in Turkey. Can I come to you afterwards? Absolutely, yes. You may have seen that Dahi O'Shea, now he didn't have his hair transplant in Turkey, he had it done in the Bonds in Tralee. But after the transplant, he had a series of PRP to help stimulate and support the new growing follicles of hair. And it's usually advised to have the PRP done once a month for 6 months. So I had Kira from Platform 20 yesterday here in clinic. She is the provider of the Regen centrifuge machine that I have, and who facilitated the training in Belfast, which was way back in November now. And she was telling me that a lot of men are now choosing to have 3 sessions of PRP to see if the hair follicles could be stimulated, and have it done before they make a decision to go to Turkey. And even at that, if they still make the decision to go to Turkey, despite the fact that they've had PRP with us, it's a good primer. So 3 sessions is usually recommended. And I think that's a great idea, actually, to try it before you have your hair transplant. And so it's not going to harm you. It could do some good, and it certainly will help if you do decide to go down the road of the transplant. Another question, does it work on everybody? No results are guaranteed, but its success is backed by science. So it won't do you any harm, it could do you some good. And if the follicle is dead, no resuscitation by PRP is going to make the follicle come back and to produce hair. The only thing that will work in that instance is a transplant. If you're bald a long time and if the head is shiny, that's an indication that the follicle is dead and it's down the road of a transplant you're going to go. If the baldness is recent or if the hair thinning is recent, it's an indication that the follicle isn't quite dead yet, and it's flagging and it can be resuscitated. But you have to do your part. There is no point in coming for one session and hoping that's going to work. You have to come for a minimum of 3 and sometimes 6 and then 6 monthly. Can you get numbing? All right, so numbing is not going to be easy to put it in between the hair, and it's not going to be effective anyway. It can be used on the face, but it's usually done so quickly that it's no different to actually having any kind of injectable. I use numbing here for people who are really scared. Some people just don't have the time and they say fire on. The soreness is a 2 out of 10. My husband, who I'm doing PRP on his crown right now, and just the thinning parts of his front here. He has 2 widow's peak, but he's had them all his life, so obviously there's no point in putting it here. But he has found, he had a session done between Christmas and the New Year. He had a second session done this week. He's using minoxidil as well, which is commonly known as either Regain or Nioxin, and he has found the pain and soreness a 2 out of 10, a pick. Are there people that are not suitable? Yes, that would be, there are certain people who are not suitable. People who are post-chemotherapy are not considered suitable unless they have a letter of release from their oncologist. People who have been bald all their lives and their head is shiny, well then their follicle is dead and that's not a suitable candidate. And you've no choice there but go for a transplant. So if you're anyway worried about your health, I would highly advise that you come for a consultation first, so that we can go through a medical screening first and see if you're suitable, rather than wasting your time and going down the road of PRP or booking in for PRP and then finding out that you're not suitable for it. So do book in for a consultation. Their link is in the bio and it's got its own separate heading for consultation under PRP heading. Is this the treatment that Dahi O'Shea had in addition to his transplant? Yes, absolutely it is. If you're following Dahi's story, he had his transplant done in the Bonscours in Tralee, and he currently talks about the fact that he had several sessions of PRP afterwards to support the follicle. So if you've had a transplant before or has had transplant someplace else, and it suits you to come, the technique is the same everywhere. So we would take 10 mils of blood from you if you had a small transplant. We take 20 mils of blood for you if you had a bigger transplant, and we would advise you to come monthly for 6 weeks. So yeah, that is what Dahi O'Shea had done after his transplant. But if you decide to have it as a primer before transplant, or see if it'll work before you have any transplant, my husband is finding it great. So my husband is in his very early 60s and he is using minoxidil, which is over-the-counter Regain or Nioxin, on his head every night, and has been doing so since we started this treatment a month ago. And he is finding that the existing hair that he has is way stronger and thicker already, and we're starting to see new baby hairs starting to protrude through the scalp in the areas that I've done the PRP. But realistically, it wouldn't normally work as fast as that. You would start to see the new baby hairs after 16 weeks. So far he is incredibly happy, and he's putting in the work. But you do need to sort of commit to coming and commit to doing the aftercare and commit to using supportive treatments like minoxidil. Obviously, one of the most common questions is how much is it? So per treatment, it's €550. Depends on whether you're having it done for your face or your scalp. If you're having it done for your face, depends on the size of your face. Starting face would be $350. For scalp, it's $550. And if you, we also do bundles, so bundles of 3, so you'd pay at the very first visit, and the bundle, say for example for your scalp, it was $550 per visit. We do a bundle of 3 for $12.50 instead of it being 15 or 1600 euros. So we also have a subscription service where you can pay monthly, and that makes it more affordable for you. But yeah, that's the fee. It's a very niche service. It's high end, but it's worth it. And I have to go now. So, but I'll do a live over the weekend in relation to all the questions that are coming in, and I'll put up another question box as well. Is it only for the hair? No, it's not. That's the scalp PRP that I happened to put a question box up for yesterday. It's used for the face. I use it on the face, neck, décolletage. It's used all over the body, and the growth factors help to stimulate elastin and collagen, and extra to that you have the growth factors, which will give you that lovely glow. So if you're looking for something that's more natural, you can have this done, and but you have to come a minimum of 3 times, just so that you know that, and it's usually 4 weeks apart. Anybody who has decided to have cellular matrix done, which is usually done in and around the face here, neck and décolletage. Sorry, I can't see that I'm running out of space because of the sun. Anyway, so cellular matrix is used for your face. That includes hyaluronic acid, so that's an extra boost. So you've got the growth factors that stimulate collagen and elastin, and you've got hyaluronic acid, and that's called cellular matrix. That's more expensive treatment, but do email me for the package, and I'll tell you about that. And it depends on whether it's an add-on or not. So PRP has been used for such a long time in the medical world, usually injected into joints for injuries. A friend of mine recently had it done in the Sanctuary Clinic in Dublin, and she went from having a very critical knee to it doing really well 4 months later. So it's got magical powers, really. It's just amazing.